Hey y'all, whether you're an avid listener already or want to make your own podcast like me, Anchor is the easiest way to get started. Let me tell you about it. It's free. You can record and edit your podcast directly from your phone or computer. Anchor will do all the heavy lifting and distribute your podcast for you to major platforms such as Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can even make money from your podcast. Yes, you can secure the bag with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Thank you so much for clicking on this episode of Pages from My Notebook, a True to Life podcast. My name is Erica, and today's topic is something I like to call the Struggle Olympics. Hence the title, No One Wins in the Struggle Olympics. You might think there's gold, silver, and bronze. I think those are the categories. I don't do sports. Sue me. Anyway, everyone competes, but no one wins. I just want to say I'm really excited about this whole podcast thing. I'm recording this at 1 a.m. But you know it's a passion project, so I have the energy. We're going to do it. We're going to get into it. So, let's go. The Struggle Olympics, I'm pretty sure I came up with that. If I didn't, I'm sorry, I don't remember. But the Struggle Olympics, I define it as the comparison of workloads among school and college age people. So, this is anyone you ever sat around the table with your friends, like, man, I got a 6-page paper, I got to feed my kid, my house caught on fire, and I only slept for 6 minutes. And someone else goes, well, I broke my arm and my leg, was in a coma while I had to write a 35-page paper and give my dissertation. And then you just keep going back and forth on your different levels of struggle. That's what the Struggle Olympics is. You're trying to one-up each other, win the different medals. Like I said, it's a metaphor. You get the drift. And it's something that's so commonplace, and I think that's crazy. And I participated in it for a long time, I thought, because everyone was struggling, so why not share? And it's like, when you come to your parents and you say, I'm tired, they're like, you're tired, I had to raise you and do blah 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 blah. It's like, whoa, where is this misplaced anger that we're putting out with each other? So that's what I call the Struggle Olympics. We're in it basically whether you're aware of it or not, but once you become aware of it, it's your responsibility to get out of it. And something that goes hand in hand with the Struggle Olympics is impostor syndrome. She is like the ringleader. That's a circus. They're two different things. It's fine. But impostor syndrome is also very commonplace and I believe feeds into the Struggle Olympics. And that's defined from our good old friend Wikipedia as a psychological pattern in which one doubts one's accomplishments and has a persistent internalized fear of being exposed as a fraud. Internalized fear of being exposed as a fraud. Now, this is something that I think, like, once again, it's been ingrained in all of us that everything we do, we actually didn't do it. Like, somehow something else is responsible for it. And I think that's crap, honestly, because the Struggle Olympics, like, we're literally saying how hard we work and we turn around and discredit ourselves. If we sit and think about it, that doesn't make sense. But that's what Miss Imposter Syndrome wants us to think. I'm going to abbreviate that to IS. So whenever I say IS, I'm talking about imposter syndrome. If you've been in this situation, I have a lot. So, for example, someone's like, oh man, that test was really bad. I don't know how it went. I mean, I cried. My pencil lead broke 5 times. I've never even seen it before. And you come back the next day, you're like, oh, how's the test? They're like, oh, I got 105. Yeah, 105. And I'm just there like, so we had ran next to each other in the Struggle Olympics, and then you turn around and you left the race. Like, it doesn't make sense. See how imposter syndrome comes? It makes you feel like everything you do, like, you had to be prepared for your next failure. And ooh, girl, failure, that's a whole nother episode that we can get into. IS is especially prevalent in minorities and women, and if you're both, like your host, it's just a monster in itself. We've all heard the saying, you have to work 3 times as hard to earn half of what they get. And unfortunately, some things that's true, but in a lot of things, we're putting that on ourselves, and that's not necessarily the case. For example, if you don't know, I started at Pitt. Hey, go Panthers! Hail to Pitt, Swanson School of Engineering, and girl, if you were to sit in one of those classrooms, it's very from the Caucasus Mountains, the male species, if you will, if you're putting two and two together. And so walking in there, it's like I'm one chocolate chip in this white sugar cookie. So I have to step up and step out, and that's a whole story. That's a episode in itself. I'll get into. We'll get there. We'll unpack my trauma as we go along. But yeah, IS is it's really a doozy, and it puts extra stress on you that may not necessarily need to be there. The next component that goes hand in hand with the Struggle Olympics is hustle culture. Now, this is our need to feel like we have to constantly grind, be on our game, always securing the bag, always leveling up. While y'all was sleeping, I was grinding. Like, first of all, sir, ma'am, who is preventing you from resting? Like, who said that you have to sacrifice your well-being for the white man's dollar? Like, let's talk about it. And that's very generational. Black people were prevented from establishing generational wealth and owning things, going all the way back to sharecropping, and things of that nature. But it's like hustle culture is contributing this, especially in our generation where everything is online. You're posting all your moves. And side note, let's not get into people that say I'm moving in silence, but you post about it. That's the opposite of silence. But anyway, back to hustle culture. Yeah, it's just you have to always be on the move, always grinding. And I think we confuse drive and motivation for overworking, and especially in our capitalist society. Ooh, I'm going off, girl. We're gonna get into it. But especially in our society, we're taught from 18 you have to figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life. You have to go to work every day. Presumably things you don't want to do. It's common to hate your job and your coworkers. And then one day you retire, and supposedly all the money's there, and then you're old and you get sick and you die. So that's what we've been raised. That's the American dream that they're selling. Yeah, our entire economy and culture is about hustling, and we don't incorporate rest. Rest is seen as being weak. Rest is seen as being vulnerable. Someone can attack you and take your spot. What do we have to prove? Who are we proving ourselves to? I think a lot of times we're proving ourselves to other people, because keys to success are through other people. To get a degree, you have to go to the best school, and then to utilize the degree, you have to get the best job, and you have to do the best job. You have to move up, you have to be a boss, and all these things. And we don't allow people to sit back and say, hey, maybe I'm better suited carrying out someone's idea. Like Lawrence on Insecure, he was trying to be a boss because that's what he thought as a man, especially as a black man, he had to do. But he sat back and he thought, he's like, you know what, I'm better on a team. Now, we'll talk about Insecure in a later episode because Lawrence, problematic, but that's an example we see in common media, and we don't allow people, especially our minorities, to take a break because we've had to work so hard to gain just basic things. And so we're trying to prove ourselves constantly in this world that never wanted us to show up in the first place. So we're like a dog chasing the tail, or on a treadmill and like the donut is on the string. Like you're chasing it, but you're on the same path. You're not really going anywhere. You're running in the same place. And in another vein, we also do this with each other, not only to prove ourselves to a corporation or to a job or to a school. So even if you're in a class with someone, it's like, oh, well, I have to get a better grade than her so I can move higher, or so I can become valedictorian, or I can earn this award or take this spot or have my name on this list. And when you think about it, it's like we're in the same place, presumably because we have the same goals. So why would we not want to work to lift each other up so we can get to the same place and be stronger together? This hustle thing is we have to be on top, we have to be a boss, this and that. But being a good boss is one that listens to people, one that collaborates with people. You can't be top dog all the time. It's the saying, what good is money if you have no one to spend it with? You could have everything you want in the world, but you're all alone. It's like, girl, you gotta sit with yourself and be like, what did I sacrifice? And what relationships did I give up? Did I sacrifice the opportunity of getting to know because I wanted this arbitrary measure of success? And even when you are alone, you won't know what to do with yourself, because once you've conquered everything and you just have yourself, you can't conquer yourself. You're an ever evolving being and you need that time to rest. In another vein, we have to think, okay, this is the culture we were born into, but have we sort of appropriated it in a sense that this is how we bond with each other? Is this a new form of camaraderie? It's like, oh, hey girl, how are you? How are you? Yeah, I worked 75 hours today, but life is good. It's like, girl, I worked 85 2 weeks ago. Like, we're okay. Like, are we finding solace in this trauma that we're being faced with by telling each other this? Is this a way of bonding? Maybe the Struggle Olympics, where we're actually running side by side, Now, I personally don't believe that, but maybe something to think about. I think there is a certain level of bonding if you're in the same field or same class, but we have to consciously make that distinction to not compete with each other, but help and assist and run alongside of each other. Now, with any race, once you run it, you stop. You have to pause. And this is where rest comes in. And there's a phrase I love that's rest as resistance, and that was coined by this company called the NAP Ministry. They're at THENAPMINISTRY on Instagram and Facebook. And it was founded in 2016, Black woman owned, by Trisha Hersey. And from their website it reads, they're an organization that examines the liberating power of naps. They engage with the power of performance art, site-specific installations, and community organizing to install sacred and safe spaces for the community to rest together. We facilitate immersive workshops and curate performance art that examines rest as a radical tool for community healing. They believe rest is a form of resistance and name sleep deprivation as a racial and social justice issue. Now, think about how powerful that is. Something that's natural to everybody, resting, sleeping, something we all have to do, is an act of resistance. Because as mentioned before, the society wants us to work and break ourselves and prove ourselves, putting that in air quotes, because of the color of our skin or the gender we identify as or our economic class. And just thinking about taking power, there's power in caring for yourself. Just like we say there's power in being vulnerable and sharing, there's power in taking care of yourself. There's power in self-care. And that's something that I've learned personally in therapy. Highly recommend. It's a personal journey I believe we all need to go on. That's also another episode. We'll get into it. But my therapist, she had me list things that deplete me. So things in my life that I quote unquote have to do, like requirements, like I have to go to work, have to do my homework, things that require my energy, and then list things that replenish my energy. So things I enjoy, things that are restful, that make me feel like me. And when I did that exercise, my depletion list was way, way longer than the replenish list. And it was true, I was burnt out, tired, a lot of things, like I said, my backstory. We're gonna get into it. But yeah, I really identified with the NAP ministry because rest as resistance is truly what that is. Even fighting ourselves and resisting rest with ourselves, because it's a common occurrence. Like, we spend our days doing work for other people, and the only time we have for ourselves is 1 a.m. We're staring at our screens, and we're not sleeping because we're trying to fit in hours in the day to try and get some semblance of control of our time and ourselves, which is crazy that we dedicate so much of our lives to other people when we're the only one experiencing our unique existence. That's very deep and philosophical. So I implore you to list things that deplete you and list things that replenish you. And slowly, if you can, remove the things that deplete you. Like if you always say yes. When I learned the power of saying no, that no is a complete sentence and you are valid in saying no, that you don't owe anybody extra time, that was like the most life-changing thing. Life-changing. Highly recommend. Another episode. I should be taking notes. Anyway, but look at your replenish list. Take time to write down things you truly enjoy, something that always makes you smile or laugh or think or whatever emotion that brings positivity to you. Remember that resting and replenishing yourself, it's liberating yourself, it's justice for your body and your soul. And something that I've really learned is that you're worth it. You're worth putting in energy in the fight, but you're also worth rest. You deserve rest. We need rest. It's part of us as humans. It's programmed in. We have to do it. We need to do it. And I think finding the time and taking joy in that and also using it for a greater purpose is amazing. So some tips for relaxation and sleep that I have learned, still working on, not perfect. I wish I was better at them. But number one, nature sounds. So if you use Spotify like me, side note, if you use Apple Music, I don't know what to tell you. You need to reevaluate some things, but Spotify has a plethora of nature sounds playlists. I also like these for studying, like if you choose like a coffee shop, like different sitting in the park if you need ambient noise. But nature sounds really help if you like the forest, which is my favorite, or the ocean. I highly suggest putting it on a speaker. Spotify also has a sleep timer, so it'll automatically stop it after a set amount of time if you know how long it takes you to fall asleep. Highly recommend. Another thing is unplugging when you're fed up. Take yourself out of the struggle Olympics. Stop running. We've all been there where you're sitting at your desk staring at an assignment and you just feel in all of your limbs and your bones and your soul just sighs. Just you feel tired. You feel physically drained. And I've learned not to keep pushing past that feeling because it's not helping me. We've all been there when you're reading something and you know that you're not actually comprehending it. You're just looking at words, but you're not actually understanding them. And when you push yourself to keep working past that point, you're not doing yourself any favors because you're not actually taking anything in. You're really hurting yourself in doing that. So I've learned to just close the laptop, log off, sis. I'm gonna need you to log out for me. I really do. When you get stressed, imagine me tapping you on your shoulder, just, I'm gonna need you to log off for me. Yeah, I'm gonna need you to close the laptop. I'm playing. But yeah, just close when you feel that. It'll always be there. That's the biggest thing I've learned. Anything you need to do will still be there, given that it's not on a deadline and you started it early enough. But yes, unplugged. I'm gonna need you to log off. Just log off when you're fed up. And another thing is to make your personal space your dream cozy space. If you guys use Reddit, I highly suggest cozy places for inspiration. So many blankets, fairy lights, just very Tumblr-esque. Whatever brings you comfort and joy. If it's your favorite blanket from childhood, or if you like to buy a new blanket every week from Target, that's low-key adding myself. But if that's what brings you joy, make your bedroom or whatever space you like to relax your perfect space. And that's a space that you don't bring your work into, because whatever you associate with work, you will have the same feelings when you are working. So if your work makes you stressed, don't bring it into your room or wherever you dedicate for relaxing. Remember, resting as a form of resistance, so you're resisting the things you have to do that deplete you to replenish you. And my very last tip, my favorite tip, is treat yourself. Treat yourself, sis. Now, establish a budget. That's the part I'm working on. But treat yourself. You're worthy of reaping the reaping the fruits that you sow. Seed sowing, gardening, whatever the process is. You're worthy of the fruits of your labor. That's the phrase. Oh wow. Oh wow. Okay. Yes, treat yourself. You're worthy of receiving the fruits of your labor. Stop putting all your effort into other people and never giving to yourself. Whether it's a drink from Starbucks, a nice sweatshirt, getting your nails done, that's my personal favorite. Treat yourself because you have to take care of yourself because you're the most important thing in your life. If you don't put gas in the car, it won't run. If you don't put in the blue windshield stuff, all the dead bugs are going to cloud your window. Can you tell I don't drive? I don't know. I'm trying to help y'all. Yes, treat yourself. So that was my take on the Struggle Olympics. Remember, no one wins in the Struggle Olympics, so take yourself out of the race. Thank you so much for listening. This is my second episode, well, my first non-scripted episode, so I'm trying to get in the feel of it. Hopefully y'all are rocking with it. If you're not, it's my podcast, so no, I'm playing. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. Remember, you can follow the podcast at Pages from My Notebook Pod on Instagram. I would truly appreciate that. You can listen on Anchor, coming soon to SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, working on establishing a schedule for uploading, trying to make it as authentic as possible. So some months you might get 1 episode, you might get 7. Who knows? This is something that's fun, and I'm taking myself out of the Struggle Olympics. I'm using it as rest and restoration. So I hope this inspires you all to find something that replenishes you. And you can visit my website, which is missericadanielle.wixsite.com. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope to have you listening again soon.
Pages from My Notebook, a True to Life podcast, is a passion project by yours truly, Erica Barnes. Read episode descriptions and more at pagesfrommynotebookpod.com. Follow the pod on Instagram at pagesfrommynotebookpod and like the pod on Facebook at facebook.com/pagesfrommynotebookpod. You can support the pod monthly via Anchor at anchor.fm/Erica-Barnes/support. I hope to have you listening again soon.